My name is Alex, I'm 27 years old, and 2 months ago I got a message I wasn't expecting. It was from Tyler, my best friend from childhood. We hadn't talked in almost a year. The message just said, "Dude, I need some company. I'm going crazy out here alone. Come spend the weekend at the cabin?" I didn't even know he had moved to a cabin. Last time I heard anything, he had quit his job and disappeared from social media. But he was my brother, so I said yes. On Friday afternoon, I got in my car and drove for 3 hours to get to the lake where he was living. The last hour of the drive was the worst. No cell signal. No street lights. Just a dirt road surrounded by trees on both sides. When I finally saw the cabin in the middle of the woods, the sun was already setting. Tyler was on the porch waiting. When I got out of the car, the first thing I thought was, he's changed. Not physically, but in the way he moved, the way he looked. He greeted me with a half smile and said, "Glad you came, man," but his voice came out slow, almost dragging. It wasn't the Tyler I knew. The cabin was beautiful on the outside. Rustic wood, deck overlooking the lake, exactly the kind of place you'd see in a magazine. But when I walked in, I felt something heavy in the air. I can't really explain it. It was like the place was suffocating. Tyler showed me where I was going to sleep, a small room with a bed and a window that looked right out onto the lake. He stood in the doorway staring outside for about 5 seconds without saying anything. I asked, "You okay, man?" And he just nodded and said, "I'm tired. We'll talk later." During dinner, he barely touched his food. He kept staring out the living room window the whole time. I tried to make conversation about work, about what he was doing out here, but his answers were short, distracted. Until suddenly, out of nowhere, he stopped eating, looked at me seriously and said, "Don't look out the window after midnight. Please." Guy laughed nervously, thinking it was a joke. "You're kidding, right?" But he wasn't laughing. He repeated it slower, "I'm serious, man. Just don't look." That made me uneasy, but I didn't want to push it. I went to bed around 11 p.m. The room was too quiet. That kind of silence that feels like it has weight. I closed my eyes and tried to relax, but something was wrong. I woke up at 2 in the morning with a dry mouth. Got up to get some water in the kitchen. The house was completely dark. When I passed through the living room, the big window facing the lake was there with the curtains open. I felt a strange urge to look. Almost irrational. But I remembered what Tyler had said. I looked away, grabbed the water, and went back to my room. I managed to fall asleep again, but the sleep was heavy, full of dreams I couldn't quite remember. On Saturday morning, I woke up hoping things would get better. But Tyler was worse. He barely spoke to me at breakfast. Just sat on the porch staring at the lake, like he was waiting for something to appear. I tried to talk. Asked if he was okay, if something had happened. He stayed silent for a while, then turned to me and said, "You're leaving tomorrow morning. I shouldn't have called you." That made me angry and scared at the same time. "Tyler, what the hell is going on here?" I asked. He didn't answer. Just got up and went inside the cabin. The rest of the day was weird and tense. He barely ate, barely moved. Just stared at the lake. I seriously thought about leaving that afternoon, but something held me back. Maybe loyalty. Maybe curiosity. Maybe fear of leaving my friend alone with whatever was happening there. At night, I went to bed early again. But at 2 in the morning, I woke up to the sound of footsteps in the living room. I got up slowly and left the room. Tyler was standing in front of the big window. Completely still. Just staring at the lake. The moonlight came in faint through the glass and drew his silhouette against the darkness. I whispered, "Tyler?" He didn't answer. Didn't turn around. Didn't move. Just stood there, frozen like a statue. My heart started beating faster. I walked closer slowly. When I got near him, he finally spoke, but without taking his eyes off the window. "She's out there again." His voice was empty. I swallowed hard and asked, "Who?" He took a deep breath and said, "I don't know. But she comes every night. And every night she gets closer." I should have stopped right there. Should have gone back to my room. But I looked out the window. And this is what I saw. The lake was dark, with the moon reflecting on the water's surface. Everything looked normal. Until I saw the figure. On the shore, near an old, crooked tree. A person. Standing. Staring directly at the cabin. Completely motionless. My stomach turned. "Tyler? There's someone out there." Tyler didn't turn but answered quietly, "I know. But it's not someone." Guy blinked. When I opened my eyes again, the figure was gone. But a second later, she was on the other side of the tree. Closer. I blinked again. Now she was at the edge of the cabin's deck. 3 feet from the window. Now I could see clearly. It was a woman. Long, wet hair falling over her shoulders. Soaked clothes clinging to her body. face pale as wax. And her eyes were completely black. Empty. She smiled. A slow, wide, wrong smile. I screamed. Couldn't hold it back. Ran to my room, slammed the door and locked it. I heard Tyler in the living room speaking quietly, almost to himself. I told you not to look. I didn't answer. Grabbed a kitchen knife I'd brought from the kitchen earlier and sat on the bed with my back against the wall, staring at the door. Waiting. My body was shaking. I didn't sleep. Not for a second. Just waited for dawn to come. When the sun came up at 6 in the morning, I grabbed my stuff in silence and left. Tyler was sitting on the porch. He looked at me but said nothing. Didn't even try to stop me. Just sat there watching me leave. I got in the car and drove without stopping until I got out of those woods. 2 weeks later, I tried calling Tyler. The number was disconnected. I looked for him on social media. All profiles deleted. I got worried. Thought he might be in danger or worse. So I drove back to the cabin. When I got there, the door was open. I walked in slowly, calling his name. Nothing. The cabin was empty. Completely empty. And covered in dust. Like nobody had lived there in months. It didn't make sense. I had been there 2 weeks ago. On the kitchen table, I found a note. I recognized Tyler's handwriting. It said, "Sorry, Alex. I thought if someone else saw her, she'd stop following me. I was wrong. Now she knows about you too." I grabbed the note, left the cabin and burned it right there on the dirt ground. Never went back. Never spoke to Tyler again. To this day, I don't know if he's still alive. But sometimes when I drive past a lake at night, I feel it. I feel someone watching me. And when I look in the rearview mirror, I swear I see a silhouette standing on the side of the road. Always with that smile. My name is Marcus. I'm 28 years old, and until 3 weeks ago, I used to drive Uber at night to pay off my college debt. I needed the money, so I'd accept any ride, even the ones that seemed weird. That Tuesday I should have declined. But the surge was high and I was desperate. It was 11:40 p.m. It was pouring rain. I had just dropped off a passenger in a fancy neighborhood and was thinking about heading home when the app beeped. New ride. Pickup. A dark street in the same neighborhood. Destination. Industrial zone on the other side of the city. Price. Almost triple the usual because of the rain and the time. I accepted right away. I got to the address 2 minutes later. It was a well-lit residential street, big houses with automatic gates. I saw the silhouette of a man standing under a tree. He was wearing a hood that covered half his face. I figured it was because of the rain. He got in the car without saying anything. Just nodded and sat in the back seat. I said, "Good evening, how's it going? We're headed to the industrial zone, right?" He didn't answer. Just pointed forward with his finger. I thought it was weird, but some passengers are like that. Quiet. Tired. I turned on the GPS and started driving. The first 10 minutes were normal. Light traffic, rain hitting the windshield, GPS working. I tried to make conversation a few times. "You work in the industrial zone?" Silence. "Rough night, huh?" Nothing. He just sat there in the back, motionless, staring forward. I gave up trying to talk. It was when we started entering the industrial zone that things got weird. The GPS sent me to take an exit I didn't know. A side street with no pavement, full of potholes. I looked at the app thinking it had glitched, but the route was marked there. I kept going. The rain got heavier. The street started getting darker, less lit. No more houses. Just abandoned warehouses and empty lots. My phone started losing signal. First it dropped to 3G, then to 1 bar. I thought about stopping and checking the address with the passenger, but when I looked in the rearview mirror, I saw something that froze me. He was smiling. It wasn't a normal smile. It was wide. Weird. Like he knew something I didn't. I swallowed hard and asked, "Everything okay back there?" He didn't answer. Just kept smiling. I looked back at the road and tried to focus. The GPS told me to turn left on a dead-end street. I stopped the car and said, "Dude, I think the GPS is bugged. What's the right address?" He pointed forward again. Without speaking. Just pointing. I didn't want to continue, but I also didn't want to cancel the ride and lose the money. So I turned left. The street was a narrow alley between 2 warehouses. Barely enough room for the car to pass. I tried to open the app to cancel the ride. The app froze. The screen got stuck on the same image. I tried closing and opening it again. Nothing. My heart started beating faster. I looked in the rearview mirror. The passenger was still smiling, but now he was leaning forward, closer to me. I stopped the car completely and turned around. "Look, man, I don't know what kind of game this is, but I'm gonna ask you to get out now." He didn't move. Just stayed there, staring at me through the shadow of his hood. Then he spoke. The first time he'd opened his mouth since getting in the car. His voice was low, hoarse, but strangely familiar. He said, "You don't remember me, do you?" My blood ran cold. That voice. I knew that voice, but I couldn't remember from where. I said, "Who are you? What do you mean I don't remember?" He didn't answer, just kept staring at me. I grabbed my phone to call the police. When I unlocked the screen and looked at the GPS, I felt my stomach turn. The map showed we were in a loop, going back to the starting point, but I had been driving straight for 20 minutes. It didn't make any sense. I looked at the back seat again. He wasn't there anymore. The seat was empty. Completely empty. I dropped my phone, unlocked the doors, and got out of the car in the rain. I opened the back door. Nothing. No sign that anyone had been there. The seat was dry. Not a single drop of rain. But he had gotten in wet. I saw it. My whole body was shaking. I got back in the car, locked the doors, and tried to start the engine. The Uber app came back to life. And there was a new notification. Passenger rated you, 1 star. I couldn't breathe right. How did he rate me if he had disappeared? I looked at the driver's seat. There was something there that wasn't before. A photo. I picked it up with a trembling hand. It was me. Younger, like 18 or 19 years old. I was smiling with my arm around someone. But the other person's face was blurred, torn. Like someone had ripped that part of the photo out on purpose. I stared at the photo for about 10 seconds without understanding. Then I saw something written on the back in faded blue pen. It just said, "You forgot." I threw the photo on the floor, started the car, and drove out of there as fast as I could. Didn't look in the rearview mirror. Didn't stop at red lights. Just drove until I got home. When I parked in front of my building, I picked up the photo from the floor. Looked at it again, trying to remember. Trying to understand who the person next to me was. But I couldn't. It was like that memory had been erased from my head. I deleted the Uber app that same night. Never drove after midnight again. And to this day, when I see someone wearing a hood on the street, my whole body freezes. Because I'm sure of one thing. Whoever that passenger was, he knew me, and he wanted me to remember something my brain was trying to forget. Those were the 2 stories I wanted to share with you today. Alex's and Marcus's. 2 regular people who lived through something they can't explain. And maybe that's the scariest part of all. Not knowing. Not understanding. Just feeling that something was wrong and never finding out why. If you enjoyed these stories, drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel for more horror content like this. And tell me in the comments, have you ever experienced something similar? Something that made you question what's real? I read every comment. And remember, sometimes the scariest things are the ones we can never explain.